RFK Jr. has made it clear that he is intending to now leave the Democratic Party and run for president as an independent. Will the Forward Party have anything to say about it? We'll talk about that in a minute, but here is a clip that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. So here we go.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to be in Philadelphia on October 9th to make a major announcement at the very birthplace of our nation. I'm not going to tell you right now exactly what that announcement will be. I can say, though, that if you've been waiting to come to one of my public events, this will be the one to come to. I'll be speaking about a sea change in American politics and what your part and my part is in that change. A lot of Americans who had previously given up any hope that real change would ever come through the American electoral process have begun to find new hope in my candidacy. And I understand the deeply felt concern that people have about the way corruption has overtaken our government. It's in the executive branch, it's in Congress, it's in the leadership of both political parties. And so some people feel a kind of cynicism alongside the hope, or they lose hope entirely because they've been disappointed so many times. I want to tell you now what I've come to understand after 6 months of campaigning. There is a path to victory. The hope we are feeling isn't some kind of trick of the mind. We all recognize that there's a genuine possibility of national transformation, and its source is the goodness of the American people. Our government may be crooked, but our people are kind, brave, and caring. That goodness is stronger than the divisions that are keeping us all apart. I see it every day on the campaign trail, and the more I see it, the more I trust it. And the more I trust it, the more the path to victory becomes visible. So how are we going to win against the established Washington interests? It's not through playing the game by the corrupt rules that the corrupt powers and the vested interests have rigged to keep us all in their thrall. Instead, we're going to have to rewrite the assumptions and change the habits of American politics. We're going to tap into a mighty surge of people power to reclaim an honest, peaceful, just, and prosperous America. So I am inviting you to join me in Philadelphia on October 9th. There I'll share with you our path to the White House and how we can all participate in healing our nation.
Nice video.
Yeah, it's well done.
Yeah, it's well done. So I don't know, but I mean, like, to me, I think I would assume he's running libertarian. What do you think? I mean, do you know what's going on? What do you know?
Have you communicated with him about where the Forward Party's at?
I think he's going to be running for president as an independent. And one thing I want to let folks know who are into this stuff, which is probably all of your watchers and listeners, that there are several ways you can run for president. I would know. One is through major parties, because the major parties obviously have ballot lines in every state. So that's the D and the R. To your question, libertarians also have a ballot line in all 50 states. Right. Green, it depends upon the cycle and the candidate, but it has gone all the way up to 48 or 50. I think the last cycle. Yeah. They might have had 30. They had 40 when it was Jill Stein. So it's in that order of magnitude. If you decide to run for president, you can do so actually most easily in a lot of these states if you run unaffiliated/independent. What happens is the states have provisions for you to get on the presidential ballot as just a candidate. You know, like Jen Perlman, Andrew Yang, not right. Stephen Marche, because you're a Canadian.
hey.
But the lowest bar to get on the ballot is actually if you're just running as a candidate. So there are two possibilities of what RFK is going to announce. Number one is he's running as a libertarian. Number two is he's running as an independent. Indications are that he's going to choose the latter, that he's going to say, hey, I'm running as an independent. And then when he gets on the ballot in various states, it'll be as RFK for president. It won't be RFK under on a particular party line. That's what I believe is happening.
That's a very big undertaking. Like, to me, that's a much bigger undertaking when you have to like do that and have initiative in every single state. There's no infrastructure in the state. Like that's a lot harder than working within a party. And to me, he's always struck me as libertarian anyway. So I just figured, why not?
The thing, and Stephen would like to get your thoughts on this, the thing about where this country is right now and how we can bring it back full circle to the last election. You know, the thing that RFK has been talking about, and he's the only candidate that's been talking about this for the past several months, quite frankly, is the heart of what has essentially destroyed our country from an economic standpoint. We have a complete free-for-all when it comes to the wealthy basically owning everything. And that, of course, is related to his very pointed statements regarding single-family home ownership in this country and how it's changed, especially in the last few years, with the likes of course, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, which combined in the trillions upon trillions of dollars of private equity, by the end of this decade, are expected to own 60% of the single-family homes in this country. If people cannot see and did not heed Andrew's warning, not just with automation, but how everything is becoming concentrated into the hands of a few, and how you will never be able to build generational wealth ever again, is the point of his statement. I don't agree with a lot of what RFK says, but I 1000% agree with that economic message that if we do not deal with the likes of BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, this country is literally going to reach a point of no return. And I think that message, especially as an independent candidate, is going to resonate with a lot of people.
See, like, obviously I'm an outsider in a number of fronts, an outsider to the political process, a national outsider. But, you know, the economic realities that you're describing, they're happening everywhere, right? Like, I'm in a country in a major housing crisis. Like, we're bringing in 1 million immigrants next year. We have no idea where we're going to put them. The same thing is happening even in a depressed UK, and it's happening all over Europe. The problems, the things that are distinct about the American situation is really this decline of trust in institutions, right? This radical decline in trust of institutions of all kinds. And I mean, you brought up the military earlier, but I mean, I think certainly the way I read the book, I don't know if Andrew feels the same, but it's less of a coup than it's like the position that the military finds itself in is the only institution that anyone in the United States trusts. And that's totally unnatural. That's not a natural position for them to find themselves in or for the country to find themselves in. And so what I find when I hear someone like RFK who talks about, you know, it's very easy to come up with these enemies of ordinary Americans, because it obscures the reality, which is that the problems here are structural, right? I mean, that's why these open primaries matter so much. Like, if you look at the case of Alaska, I mean, it is so fascinating because this one tiny change to the electoral system has led automatically to Sarah Palin and Donald Trump basically being removed from the political process, and sensible, policy-driven people getting power, right? And so, like, I think, like, the distractions that are created here are of good guys, bad guys, really prevent the when you look at it from the outside, which is what Andrew showed me, and what I also got myself from the next Civil War, is that these problems are structural. And like, and when RFK promotes structural changes, I think it's worth listening to. But the rest of it, like, that's not really the problem. Like, the problem is that the U.S. Constitution needs to be rethought. It is no longer a functioning document, and that's different than like, all countries have problems. And it's the political process is there to work out those problems. But if you don't have a functioning document, like a functioning constitution, you can't get to the answers, right? And so that's where, and so to me, like, what he's talking about, that's just more of the same. Like, it's the structural questions that are really of the essence here.
Well, so and this comes back to the money question. Is people sometimes ask me, hey, how much does it cost to fix American democracy? And I said $200 million would give you a shot at it, because you could run the get rid of primaries ballot initiative in 10 states at 20 million each. Maybe you succeed in 4 or 5 of them. And then maybe you liberate 8 or 10 U.S. senators from party primaries, and then maybe they do something that actually helps 51% of their people. By the way, like, when Lisa Murkowski got liberated from her primary, 6 U.S. senators, probably all Republicans, went up to her on the Senate floor and said, "We envy you so much you don't have primaries anymore." I mean, they understand how stuck they are. So if you could unstick them. By the way, this is a system where we're going to spend $8 billion in 2024 beating each other up and hating each other. So it's like 200 million is actually a pretty modest sum. But the flip side, 200 million is a lot of money. Like, where the hell are you going to get $200 million in this day and age? So my mission with Forward is to march around to folks who are thrown up their hands and said, hey, all is lost, and say, well, if you put up some money, like, we might have a shot at this thing, at saving the day. And it requires people to be truly altruistic, because and that's one thing I love about the Forward Party. I joke too sometimes. It's like, look, if you wanted, fiefdom and a little bit of power, you'd go to the Democrats or Republicans, because that's where it is. If you want to fix shit, you'd come here. But the system is so overgrown that even taking a shot at fixing the system costs millions of dollars. So that's the strange role I find myself in, is that I'm saying, like, hey guys, let's fix this thing. Now, the average American would love your help, where if you want to check out Forward Party, but I don't expect the average American to have millions of dollars lying around, so I have to go buy that. The average American, I'm trying to help. Would love your help, like, just in helping us back these ballot initiatives and sensible candidates. One of the fun things is that we get to back people of any of any party affiliation. And we're genuinely independent. But the big forces that are immiserating Americans are getting stronger all the time. And the big three are housing, education, and healthcare. They are getting increasingly out of reach. I define the American dream as just our kids are going to do better than we have. And most parents just don't feel like their kids are going to do better. And guess what? They're probably right. And in that environment, you're going to get new political approaches. I think RFK running as an independent, I don't think so. I think you will not think. I mean, you have Cornel West running Green Party. You have RFK running as either an independent or libertarian. If he decides to run as an independent, you will have a libertarian candidate. And then you may have a Joe Manchin type out of no labels. So that gets you to 4, 5, or even 6 candidates in the presidential. And I think that this is a cycle where candidates 3, 4, 5, and 6 will actually put numbers on the board, because 2/3 of us are not excited about Biden or Trump.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.